we should. But yeah, I know like you guys mentioned some of you are working on Unity. Like I know that's like real games are made with that. So you guys are learning some really cool stuff, like games that you play on your consoles and PC. Like that's a platform that gets used. So that's really awesome. So I'm gonna kick us off here. My name is Chris. I work at CoConstruct, which is a company in the Charlottesville area, and I've got a couple of folks who also are from CoConstruct on the call. If two of you want to introduce yourselves.
Sure. I can go first. I'm Anastasia. I am the quality assurance manager at CoConstruct, and I work with Chris and Ethan.
And I am Ethan. I'm an automation engineer, just like Chris here at CoConstruct. And yeah, I work with Anastasia and Chris.
And in just a second, we're going to explain what CoConstruct is and what automation engineer means. So if you don't know either of those things, sit tight and we'll explain it to you. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about our company. What is CoConstruct? What do we do? So we are a software company. Again, we're based in Charlottesville, but we've got people who work for us from actually all over. We've got people at our company who don't even live in Virginia. We have, oddly enough, a number of people from Minnesota. So we've got some cold states people in our company as well as a number of other places. We make software for the construction industry. So construction companies that build houses or remodel houses, those are our customers. And what our software does, it's on the web, and there's also a mobile app. And our software helps those construction companies stay in touch with the homeowners that they're working for throughout the life of a project. So while they're building a house or while they're updating someone's kitchen or something like that, they communicate about that project using our software. And I'm sure as we've all seen in the past year, as we've had to do things like go to school and for us like work from home, and we're not getting together face to face to do everything that we used to. It's really important to have good tools that help you communicate with the people you're working with. So, we now, just about every school and every company will use something like Zoom, and that's their tool to keep in touch. CoConstruct is another tool that helps people keep in touch with each other as they're working on something. So both the construction company and the homeowner can log into our software, and they can do things like talk about the decisions they want to make. When you build a house, there's like 1,000 things you have to decide. You have to decide the paint color. You have to decide what your cabinets are going to be like, what your countertops are going to be made of, just 1,000 plus decisions. And so our software keeps track of all of that. And it lets people talk to each other about how the project is going. They can see if it's on schedule. They can see how much things cost. And that's basically what we do. Like many of you all have had to do, our company right now, everybody is working from home. Before the COVID pandemic, though, we had an office that was open, but there was actually, it was optional whether you could go there or not. So we still had people working from home. We had some people working in an office before all of this happened. And when, hopefully in a few short months here, when life looks more normal, we may have an office again, but we're still going to have a lot of people working from home. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is just to say that what you all have had to do in the past year or more, doing school and stuff from home and using Zoom and all of that, it's actually really good preparation for one day when you are in the workforce, because you might work for a company that, even if you go to the office every day, you might have a coworker who lives 10 states away, and so you might use Zoom or something else like that to communicate with them. And you all have already done it. You know how that works, so you'll really have a leg up on folks who who didn't have that prior experience. But with our company, we really try to make it work for the person working at the company. So even though I live in Charlottesville and we have an office in Charlottesville, I'm going to keep working from home after the pandemic is over just because I like it. But for some folks who don't like working from home, they're going to have the option to go in. And so you're not stuck doing one or the other. You just do the one that works best. So if you liked doing school from home, cool, you might get to keep doing that kind of thing for a job. But if you really missed getting to see folks, I don't think you'll be stuck having to do that in your career. I think that there will still be plenty of people who go to offices and work together. It'll just be, you'll find the fit that's right for you. So now I'm going to turn it over to Anastasia for just a minute, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we specifically do in the field of what we call quality assurance. So Anastasia, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Chris. Just a note, I'm using a new device to connect today, so I hope that you're not hearing this thing say mute off every time I unmute. It's awkward. So quality assurance. So as you can imagine, our builders who are out in the field, they may get to a job site, they are ready to work for the day, and oh crap, all of a sudden their app is broken. They have no way to see their schedule. They don't know what vendors might be coming that day. They don't know what materials might be arriving that day. And now they're really upset with us. I am sure, so all of you, it sounds like, have written code before. Please give me a reaction in Zoom if your code has always worked right the first time you wrote it. No reactions. All right, point made. So obviously the process of verifying that your code is working right involves a lot of testing. And sometimes when you are trying to iterate on that code, say you have your first version, you think it's really great, but you thought of another feature you wanted to add. When you go in to write that new code for that new feature, it could break what you had done before. So in order to avoid those types of bugs going out into production, affecting your code, affecting your customers, it's really, really important to insert quality practices throughout the entire life cycle. Quality assurance it encompasses a lot of different parts of software development. We look at the product process. How are you determining the right thing to build for the customers? If you can't tell me that, if you can't tell our developers that, we may be coming to talk to you as a product person and saying, hey, what are you thinking? As a developer, are you testing your own code? Are you making sure you understand the implications of the code changes that you're making? Are you getting another developer to peer review your code? If you're not, I'm going to come talk to you. You're going to get a nice message in Slack from me. And then, of course, after the developer has finished the code, it's been reviewed by another dev, we set our quality assurance analysts on it to manually test it. Well, manual testing can be very time consuming, so we also implement a ton of test automation into this process. Chris is going, or Ethan, are going to explain a little bit more about the difference between manual testing and automated testing later on. But basically, automated testing is writing code that will automatically test your code at different parts of the life cycle. That's basically it.
Yep, and I think that was a good segue into our next section here. Ethan, were you going to talk about continuous delivery a little bit?
Yep, I sure will. And so the two companies up here that you see on the board now, if you hadn't heard from them before, which I find very unlikely, during this pandemic, I guarantee both of these have been used probably by everyone here regularly. So Netflix and Amazon are huge companies that rely pretty much entirely on software. Everything they do is code-based because it's mass marketed digitally. And you think about that, millions, possibly billions of customers, however many people are on the planet, most of them probably have one or both of these services. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that they have up-to-date code, up-to-date everything, making sure that their platforms are stable and readily available for everyone that wants to get on there. So what they do is a fairly common practice now. It's called continuous delivery, essentially meaning that you are continuously sending new code out into the world. Now, these companies do it at astounding rates. Netflix will publish new code thousands of times a day, and Amazon publishes new code every 11.5 seconds. And that's going out live, not just they're thinking up new things. That's going all the way out to a consumer side. And that's just staggering. Now, we don't make code changes quite that often here at CoConstruct, but we are averaging probably about 7 to 11 times in a week. We are sending new code out that is going live and affecting our subscribers the instant that we publish it. And that's pretty much the principle of continuous delivery. It's just making sure that you're not sitting there building up a ton of new code to push out at once. Try and keep it a little more nimble, smaller, but consistent and constant, never stopping or lagging, making sure that pretty much you're able to change features and update features readily and easily. Well, relatively easily. But that is pretty much the entire practice of continuous delivery. And essentially, with all these changes being rolled out so quickly, as Anastasia mentioned, as far as using automated testing, it's a huge boon to covering all the changes or even the things that didn't change to catch any kind of problems that may crop up. Which actually segues right into a little bit more specifically about test automation. Chris, did you want to take this or?
Yeah. So, as Ethan was describing to you, these big companies that deliver all that code so frequently, even CoConstruct, a much smaller company, we make updates really, really frequently. And like we've already talked about, it's a big deal when something breaks or goes out and doesn't work right. Your customers get really mad, and sometimes it costs you a lot of money because they leave you, or you've got to give them special discounts to make up for your problem. So, when you're making lots and lots and lots of changes to a software product, you really need to make sure that everything works right. And you don't always have time or energy or even the focus to have people sit down and test all of those changes, even though we do have people at our company whose full-time job it is to test changes. It's really nice if you can keep those folks focused on the new things, and you can make their life easier by making some of those tests automatic. So, in the picture here, we've got the guy kicking back with his feet up on the desk while the robot does his testing for him. Well, that's not actually that unrealistic. Amazon, Netflix, CoConstruct, and just about any modern software company is going to have not only the code that they write that makes up their software product that they sell, but they're going to have a team of folks like us who's writing code to test the changes. So we can automatically, with each change that one of our coders makes, we can check and make sure, hey, does it work like it's supposed to? Did it break something else in our system that used to work? And we can perform those checks automatically, so a human doesn't have to sit at the computer and stare at it and maybe get it wrong, right? Because we're all human, we make mistakes, we get tired. Computers only make mistakes if you program them to, and they don't get tired. So we can run thousands and thousands of tests over and over again using test automation. Automation just means like automatic, right? Like it happens automatically without a person having to do it. And so what we wanted to do here is show a little demo of just one of our tests that runs automatically. And then we're going to do a little short coding exercise where we'll give you all some tools, and we'll actually automate a test. We'll actually write some code that tests something for us. So if you will bear with me just a second, I'm going to share another screen with you guys. And I'm going to have to join the Zoom on a second computer. So I'm going to join here, and if I'm a host, maybe I'll be able to let myself in. We'll see how that works here. But just typing in the meeting code here. All right, there we go. And let me share my screen. All right, here we go. So like I said, we have lots of automated tests that run against CoConstruct's software. So I just want to show one of those to you all real quickly here. So like most software, you've got to be able to log in with a username and password. So I'm just going to show you some code that automatically logs you into our system and checks to see whether it worked right. So you can see I'm not touching anything on the keyboard. The web browser opened up automatically. It just real quickly typed in an email address and a password. And then it took us to our landing page here. So this is what CoConstruct looks like when you log in. And in just a second, the code's gonna check this page and make sure it is seeing what it thinks it's supposed to see. And then it's gonna tell us if the test passed or failed. And there it just went. It told us our test passed. So our login is still working. That's good news. If it weren't, we'd probably have to drop off this call and go fix something. But our login is still working. So what we're going to do with a a little bit of help here, but hopefully we'll give you all enough to figure it out on your own, is we're gonna write some code. This is I meant to mention this before. We use the coding language Python to write these tests, and it uses a plugin called Selenium. So Python and Selenium are the two terms you might hear me mention as we go through this. That's the technology that writes these tests. Python is the coding language. Selenium is the tool that lets the code talk to the web browser and open it up and move it around and do things. So I'm going to use the Zoom meeting here to send out a PDF with some info on it that'll talk about our exercise. If I can find it here. Maybe we don't have that enabled on the Zoom call. Do you guys have the chat, the send file? Am I just missing that? Oh, maybe it was turned off.
I don't see that option.
Okay.
It should be.
Let's see here. Maybe, there it is. I see it. Okay. All right. All right, I'm going to post a link here. This is just giving you all a document that that we put together that has some info on it about how to do this test automation. So I'll pull it up on my screen here too. So what we're going to do is we're going to write some code that will go to the homepage of google.com, and we'll do a search. And we can search for whatever we want, but we're just going to make the code open that web browser and do the search for us. So this document here has some information. I'll walk through it here for you before we get started. But that's our goal, is we're gonna make a Google search happen automatically. And there are a couple of things that that we'll need to know in order to make that happen. So the first thing that we're gonna look at is, I'm gonna go to Google's homepage here, And I'm going to show you a trick that exists in most web browsers. I'm using Google Chrome, but you can do the same thing in Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari on Mac, and just about any web browser. Am I still screen sharing? This is usually the part where I forget to screen share.
Yes. You're showing the Python code.
Showing the Python code. All right. Let me just open up my web browser in here then. All right. So so I'm in my browser here, and I'm gonna right click on something, and I've got this option that says inspect. Is that showing up, Anastasia? Okay, perfect. So what inspect does is it lets you actually see the HTML and CSS, basically the markup language that makes up the web page. You can see what that looks like. And when you are doing test automation for a web browser, you need to know some of this information. So if we look at, well, let me look at, I'll inspect our search bar here. It's okay if you guys don't know what everything here means. I don't actually know what everything here means, but what I wanted to show is like all of this stuff on the website is actually made up of text like you see here. And so we can see that this search bar is called an input, and it has all of these attributes like an ID and a type and a role and a whole bunch of other properties. And these properties are what we're going to use in our code to tell the code to go find this search bar or this image or a button and do something with it. So that's the first thing that I wanted to show you. And then the second thing, if you guys can give me like a thumbs up emoji or something in the chat, just let me know that you got that PDF that I sent out. All right, cool, awesome. So on the second page of that document, there's a few sample lines of code that we're going to put together to make this Google search work. And so I'll just real quickly walk through what they are, and then we'll figure out how we're going to piece it all together. And I'll get some participation from you guys on that. But you can see the first thing we can do is there's a line of code that opens a web browser, and it takes us to a web address. We can make the browser wait, like if we need to wait for something to load. We have to find the things on the page that we want to interact with. So like this image or this search bar or if there's a button on the page, we have to tell the code to find it before we can then tell it to do anything. And so you can see there's a number of different ways to find these elements on the page. So you find by ID, find by name, find by something called class name. And you're gonna see, as I mentioned in that browser inspect, like this has an ID called input. So if we wanted to find this ID or find this this search bar, maybe we could look, oh, does it have an ID? Is that something that I can tell the code to look for? So that's what those lines are talking about there. And then we not only need to find the stuff on the page, but we need to take actions. On the line of code that does all of that down the sheet there. So at this point, I'm gonna not talk quite as much and ask for some help from you guys. We can we can use the chat for this, or you guys and give some suggestions. Feel free to do that, whatever you're comfortable with. But I'm gonna let you all guide me through it using the sheet that I sent you. And we're gonna try to figure out together, how would I do a search from the Google homepage here using the Python code. And I'll as you guys have suggestions, I'll put it in the code here, and we'll test it out, and we'll see how it works. But I'll open it up by asking just apart from like the code, like what's the first thing we would need to do if we wanted to go do a Google search in our web browser?
Go to Google.
Sorry, what was that?
Open the browser and go to Google.
Hey, yeah, right. So the code doesn't even have our browser open until we tell it to. So we wanna open the browser and go to Google. So I'm gonna close our browser here, and anyone want to take a stab at what would we put in the code to make it open the browser and go to Google? Again, you can tell me what it is, or if you want to put it in the chat, whatever works for you. And anybody can answer that, except for Ethan.
Can you repeat the question?
Yep. So we know that our first step is we want to open the web browser and go to Google. So based on the info sheet, what would our line of code be that would do that for us? All right. Yep. Someone says driver.get, www.somewebsite.com. So we can try that. And then this might seem like a stupid question, but if we wanted to search from Google's homepage, what would we put in the, in the single quotes there in the HTTP : / what would we want to put in there? www.google.com. Yep. Like, I think that's it, right? Like, that's where we'd go. And then one thing that we have to do, since this is code, we got to be super specific. So we have to put the whole thing, the HTTP and all of that, in addition to the web address. So I'm going to type that in, and we can test our code here and see if we've got the first step working right. Is this going to open the browser and go to Google? So all right, looks like we got success in step one. We've gotten it to open the Google homepage here. So so what's next? What do we need to do next? Again, our goal is to in the end we want to do a search. So what do we need to do next? And you don't have to tell me in code. We can just start with what do we want to do, and then we'll talk about how to make the code do that. All right. Yeah, we want to find and click the search bar. So I think that is a good suggestion here. So anybody want to take a stab at how we would go about finding the search bar? We're here sitting at our computer. We know the code needs to find the search bar. What might we do to try to identify that search bar? All right, so I got the suggestion here that we would want to find its ID, name, or class name, right? Because those are the pieces of info that we have that would help us find it. So if you all remember earlier on, I showed you this this secret trick in browsers. We can right click on a thing, right, and we can do inspect. So let's try that on our search bar here, and let's see. I don't think it got the search bar. Let me try that again. Yeah. Okay. So this blue highlighted big gobbledygook of text here is what it told us the search bar was made up of. So knowing that we can identify it a number of different ways, do any of you all see something here that we could put in the code to identify the search bar here? Anything from our list show up here in this blue highlighted section? All right, so we've got the name is given, right? And what name do we see here for the search bar? Yeah, it's just called Q. I don't, that must have meant something to the Google developer who made the web page here. So we know that the search bar in the web page has the name, just the lowercase q. So now that we know that that's the name, what might we do in the code? How would we find the search bar again based on that name of Q? And you can reference the sheet there and see if you find the answer to that. All right, so we got the suggestion driver.find element by name Q. So let's put that in our code here and see if it works. One cool thing you'll see as I'm typing it, it'll suggest what I might want, and so I can pick from my list and don't have to type it all out. All right, so we're going to find element by name Q. I'm going to close the browser again. I want to run it to test this line. We probably aren't going to see anything happen because we haven't actually, other than it opening the browser, we haven't actually told it to do anything yet. We're just looking, but we'll still want to test it to make sure like our code doesn't crash or something like that. So we'll run it again. Cool. We didn't break anything. It opened up the browser and we don't see any errors. So again, nothing on the screen shows us that it found the search bar, but if it didn't, it would have screamed at us and told us there was a problem. So we can assume at this point we have found the search bar. Now, now what would we want to do next after we've found the search bar? All right. Yep. So we would want to type what we want to search, right? So that's right. Like that's what we would do if we were a human sitting down at Google searching something. We'd go into the search bar and we'd type what we want to search. So so let's take a look at the tools we've got in the code, and someone give me some thoughts on what we might put in our code to type in what we want to search for. And if you want, you can suggest what we're searching for, and we'll use that as our example. All right. So we got element.send keys. We could do a search for text you want to enter. Does anyone want to suggest something fun for us to search for today? I'll go put the element.send keys part in. All right, any suggestions on what we're Googling this afternoon? Cats. You know what? That's a common one. We did this once before, and we searched for cute kitty pictures. So I think cats works. We're probably going to get a few results on the internet for cats. So so all right. So let's do a search for cats. Now again, I just want to check my work, and you know, as we go along, make sure that stuff works or not. Do we get any errors? So let's see what happens now. All right. So it's still open our browser, but we got some text in red. So there's something else maybe we need to do here. So it says that we've got an error. This name element is not defined. So you guys may not have used Python before, but when you guys have coded, do you ever have to like declare a variable or name something before you can act on it? I think that's what's missing here. Anyone have any thoughts on how we would make this word element mean something, how we would define it in the code. Add element before the driver dot find. Yeah, I think that might do it for us. So let's add element equals here. So what it's doing now is it's still finding like we were before, but when it finds it, it's going to assign what it finds to the variable called element, and then we're going to go to element, and that's when we're going to send the keys. So let's give that a whirl and see what happens. Cool. All right. So we're making progress. It typed cats into the search bar. We're almost there. What do we want to do next to initiate our search here? All right, so we want to either press the search button or the enter key. So this is you know, a common, like often when we're doing this automation, we actually have some options. We can pick how we want it to work. I think probably either one of those actions would get us what we want. So we can go in either direction. We can use the search button, or we can use the enter key. If someone wants to suggest how we might want to do either one of those things, we could try the one that works best. They both will probably work actually, but we can try either one. All right, so we got a suggestion here for element.send keys and then keys.enter in the parentheses. So let's give that a try. And again, this is where my auto suggested text is really helpful because it knows what I'm trying to do. And so when I type that keys dot, it gives me a whole bunch of keys. So if I didn't know what keys were available, I might be able to, go up and down this list and see what I could use. The one you all suggested is right here near the top, enter. It looks like it wants us to do it in all caps, so I'm not going to argue with it. I'm going to just leave it like it is. And whoops. All right, let's fire this off and see what we get. And it looks like we have achieved our goal here. We have done a search for cats. First result was the musical movie of Cats. I heard that was really bad. I didn't see it, but Google suggested it for us. But here's some nice, cute kitten pictures. So we've gotten what we want. You guys figured it out. We've done some automation. Now, as we mentioned before, there are some ways where you could actually tell the code to check to see, hey, did I actually get the results I was expecting? We won't spend time on that today. I just wanted to practice doing the automation part, but we got it. We got some working automation code here. So excellent job, everybody, on that. So I'm gonna stop my sharing over here, and we have just a little bit more we wanted to run by you all. So I will re-present here, and I think Ethan is going to take us through the next part of our exercise here.
Yep. So what we're going to look at now is, now that y'all, got a little bit of that was a pretty simple but very, helpful test in a manner. Just kind of like that login test, just takes a few lines in order to get something in there. And biggest thing, just like Chris was saying before, talked about, how would you do it if you were a person? And then that's how you automate it. That kind of is a great segue into looking at manual versus automated testing. Some people look at automated testing as superior and think, oh, well, you can automate everything. Well, automating is definitely a great way to go for some things, but manual testing is just as important, and in some scenarios more important than getting things automated. Taking a look here just at a few things, if you've got brand new features or things that have never been released or active in development, that's definitely a spot where manual testing is far superior and the way to go. When things are prone to change, like in the middle of development or something that has never been out before, chances are you haven't had time to sit down and actually write automated testing scripts to go with it. These are also things that usually can be a little more subjective, especially when you think about looking at UIs and interfaces. The human eye is a much better judge of, will this appeal to other people or is this user friendly, than an automated script that's going to do it just because we told it to. Other things, pretty much, well, I covered that second one. Yep. But exploratory testing is also where manual testing shines far beyond most automated testing frameworks. Exploratory testing is where pretty much you just kind of go crazy. You just go into a system and start clicking around and doing all sorts of things, not following any real script. You can follow general workflows, but kind of going out of the norm and just really doing everything you can pretty much to see, what are the limits of something? What are the boundaries, and how can a normal user cross them? How do these two parts of a system interact, where if we're just doing an automated script, they may not do that because it's only going to do what we told it to. Now, where automation really does stand out and saves a lot of people from being bored tearless is testing the same things over and over and over again. When you look at companies, Amazon's putting out code every 11 and a half seconds. If they had to have people sitting there testing the stuff that they released 10 years ago that's still in production today, those people would be probably just crying at their desks, hitting the same buttons, testing the same three things every 12 seconds. It would just be so monotonous. And that's where automated testing really comes out to shine, because it can test those same things over and over again, building up on itself, and it doesn't care because it can't. And mathematical calculations. Anytime you have, think like Amazon shopping cart, they have to make sure that their tax additions for different tax regions, adding up all the prices, making sure that if you put 300 items in your cart from sellers all over the place, that not only are you being charged the appropriate amount, but on the back end of their system, that their sellers are being charged whatever fees are ascribed to them. And those large mathematical calculations are much easier handled by an automated test that uses a computer to make those instead of sitting there with a scratch pad. And anything that's really predictable or has an extremely scripted pattern of use. So something that I'm going to click this and this is for sure what's going to pop up. Pretty much it's not going to be a variable item, although those are also very automatable as well. But anytime, if I click button A, button B is going to show up next. Those are really the places where automated testing is the best way to go, because you can tell it what to look for and what you expect that response to be. Like Chris mentioned on that simple login test we showed earlier, when it first logs into CoConstruct and that one page loads, it took a few seconds. What it's waiting for is to make sure that the page does finish loading, that the browser confirms that, and then there's a few key elements that it looks for to make sure. I see, in this case, we look for headers, the names of our projects, and certain icons. And anytime that this has to be there each time this specific page loads, that's definitely a great thing to automate, because it's going to be the same every time. And if it's not the same, something's broken. So what we'll go ahead and take a look at next, just a few quick little questions here. Just see what y'all think, if a certain scenario would be better to automate or test manually. So the first one we're going to look at, in this case, an online purchase that you got to make sure all the figures add up correctly, including their taxes. Do you think that'd be something better to have automated testing around, or have someone check it every time there was a change? Yep, got an answer, automated. And I would go that way too. Automation would be the best way to do it, because Amazon, every 12 seconds, new software. I don't want to check that every 12 seconds. Next one we'll look at is a new dashboard menu that a user can customize, adding widgets, different colors, moving stuff around. And it's pretty much just a new feature that's been added, and it has to look right no matter how a user or a regular person might customize it. Is that something that'd be better to automate or maybe have someone take a look at? Yep, there we go, manual testing. In those cases, a lot of these things are not only is it a little subjective, but also there are so many different choices that, an automated test could be good for just kind of a background regression, but it's really going to need someone to look at it before it goes live, because otherwise there's just too much to think about when it comes to automating. Next one may have already given the answer away a little bit by what we showed earlier, but making sure a login page lets you log in when you enter the correct credentials. Yep, automated. And just like we showed earlier, it's just faster to have it in the beginning of any cycle. Boom, it checks the login works and it's good to go. Now, to do checklists that has been in the system for a couple years, and we still got to make sure it works after some minor changes have been added to it. Yep, we got another answer. This one's actually kind of a both-parter, I'll say. For the most part, making sure that the existing to-do list does work as intended definitely would be automated because it's been there forever. So we mostly just want to make sure we didn't break it. Now, any minor changes that were made, if they were made to that to-do list, those might have to be checked manually first. But if they were made somewhere else in the system that may just interact with it, then either way, we'd want to make sure the existing functionality was working, and that would definitely be automation. So this one would be a document creator with lots of new formatting options. Think like Microsoft Word when Microsoft Office revamps every however often they do it. Think about all the options they add, they change the menus around. Want to make sure things work when you're using a lot of different combinations and a lot of different formatting or tools. So this one would be, you could definitely automate a lot of it, especially if you left any existing functionality in there. A lot of times, especially like in this case, I used Microsoft as an example, they'll leave a lot of their menu structures intact and they'll just add on new features to it. So this would be one, anything that's existing or unchanged would definitely be automated testing because you've already covered that and you don't want to have to go back over it. Now, anything that you're adding as far as any of your new formatting options and any additions you've made, those you'd probably have to check manually first. That way you can confirm they're working. That way you can tell your automated test, these are the definite results that we want to see.
And I think that was the last one on our list here.
Yep.
Unless you have any surprise ones to throw out there. So, well, cool. Well, that's the end of what we have for you, and it's pretty much the end of our time. We might have a few more minutes here. If any of you all have any questions that you want to ask us about what we talked about today, about different career options or our company, anything like that, we'd be happy to answer those. But that's all we've got. So we'll take any questions from any of you guys and do our best to answer them.
Chris, can you guys, all three of you, go through and just kind of tell us what your background is and how you got into what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I went to college at UVA. So that's how I ended up in this area here in Charlottesville. I did take some computer science classes. It was something I was interested in. I didn't major in it though. I majored in politics, so pretty far from what I'm doing now. But I ever since I graduated college, and this has been a while, but I've worked at software companies. So I didn't start doing any coding or anything like that. I started doing customer support. So I basically would answer questions and teach people how to use the software, and sort of then moved into doing some manual testing. Then for a while I was in a role, it's called product management. Basically, I wasn't doing any coding, but I was helping to determine like what features and things we were going to add to our software. So I was working with developers who were coders and people who were testing. I wasn't doing it directly myself, but kind of got to be around that sort of thing. And I knew enough coding from, my college classes and so forth, that I was able to move into what I'm doing now, where I'm doing the automation testing. So I've always worked for software companies since I graduated college, but kind of went in a roundabout path to doing the coding part.
I can go next. I also went to UVA, but I did not finish my degree. I was going there for civil engineering, and only took one coding class, which was in Java. I hate Java. I ended up, I worked in civil engineering for quite a while as a drafter, and I wrote, I got really, really deep into Visual Basic for quite a while, using that in AutoCAD and also in Excel. And then eventually, I started working for a different software company in Charlottesville called Teachstone Training. And I started out on their tech support team, and then became a data analyst, became their first QA analyst, and then, or QA engineer, I guess. And then that was sort of I worked there for a few years. I basically handled I did a lot of project management. I did a lot, worked very closely with product to define features, and I tested everything. I wrote automated tests. And then I came to CoConstruct, working on our mobile team. I was a manual tester on the mobile team. I did dabble a little bit into automation, and then became the quality assurance manager almost 2 years ago. And so I manage a team of 8 people. We've got 2 automation engineers, and then 6 QA analysts on our team. So our team does not only test, like I said earlier, we focus a lot on the entire development lifecycle. So we focus on quality throughout the entire process.
And I'll round it out with myself. I actually really did not go to school at all after high school. I did a semester or so at a local community college. And originally I was looking into general computer sciences or IT or something like that. Really didn't have a lot of direction. Most of my background is actually in telecom. And after that, I actually came to CoConstruct because a previous colleague was also working there at the time. And I joined originally as a QA analyst, so I was mostly doing all manual testing. And our previous automation engineer, I more or less saw what he was working on one day and decided that looks pretty cool, and kind of just, wiggled my way into working with him a little bit more. And from there, he pretty much got me involved with the automation that we have going on, and it just all built up straight from there, and got to learn and continuing to learn based on all that. And that's how I got here.
So you can see we all kind of had different backgrounds, and I'd say that the one thing to take away from that is none of us went to school to do specifically what we're doing now. We just learned a bunch of stuff and had a few jobs and figured out what we liked. So we took different ways to get there, but that was at the heart of all of it.
Well, that's great. I always like to hear how you all get to where you are. And because I like the students to know that they don't always have to have a set path. Like they don't necessarily, I went to school to be an architecture teacher. That's what I do. That's what I've done for several years, but I was also a computer customer service rep and, trained body shops and things like that for a while. So it's just, I love for them to be able to hear all the different facets and how you guys get to where you go. Because they don't always know where their road's going to end. or start.
Well, yeah, I don't know where mine will end either, but
We're
I do
still
like
all
doing
trying to
this.
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So thank you all very much. We really appreciate it. I will share with you this video. I think CBIC wanted a copy of everything. So again, we thank you all for your time and all your information. I think it was a lot of fun. Our robotics team actually programs a lot in Python. So this is kind of like their stepping stone from the class to the team. I think I've got 1 or 2 kids that are on the team. So COVID's kind of put a kibosh on that this year, but we'll have more next year.
Sounds great. Well, it was a pleasure for us, and yeah, everyone did well on the exercise, so it was a success. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you all so much. Take care.
Hmm.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.